Welcome, everybody. This is our new show for season two for Studio 6 Paranormal Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Hill, with my co host, Shane Beek. And our guest for tonight is, Dave Schumacher. He's an independent paranormal researcher who has been involved in the field for over 20 years. He has co authored 2 books and published various magazine and journal articles. His formal academic training is in biology and molecular biology. Also, we have Brandon Masulo. Is that how you say their last name?
That's good. It's perfect.
That's good. Yeah.
Is a clinical therapist, author, and parapsychologist. He has graduate degrees in clinical counseling from University of Toledo and psychological research methods from University of Edinburgh in Scotland, UK. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking time to attend this show. I am very pleased to have you on for the first episode of the season 2 that we are doing. Why don't you introduce a little bit about what you're doing right now? I'll go with you, Brandon. You go first.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been in the paranormal field for about 20 years now. I've done a couple books and then some research articles which were published. Right now, I just finished up a book and I'm moving on to the next one. But a lot of the stuff I do is sort of ghostly encounters, crisis apparitions, a thing called environmental sensitivity. What fascinates me the most recently is sort of individual differences and sort of subjective and objective variables associated with haunted locations. So why does one person walk in and have a ghostly encounter and another one doesn't? Or in the same place at the same time? What's the difference going on there? So that's kind of been where a lot of my focus has been recently.
Okay. Hey, Dave, how about you?
Recently, I've been actually working on a project with Brandon and Shane. That's one thing. Also working on another project with another individual, Mike Nichols, looking at running random number generators in haunted locations and seeing if they correlate with experiences and other equipment readings. And then beyond that, I do a podcast every once in a while with my wife called Side Chat. We run our own organization, and I also do a Saturday night podcast with Tim Vickers and Kenny Biddle. So I keep myself busy when I'm not at my real job, making money to live by, and lots of fun things going on these days.
Right. So tell us a little about the project that you and Shane and Brandon are working on.
I'm going to actually let Shane or Brandon do it.
Yeah,
I think Brandon's kind of spearheading this, I believe. And,
okay.
Brandon's tech guy, and he just sent me data lately, so
I'm the tech guy.
So yeah, I'm going to let them discuss it a little bit.
Okay, Shane, you go ahead. You tell us.
All right. So basically, what we've been doing, it was based off of some stuff that Dr. Swartz had done previously, and it was using a plasma globe to detect the presence of spirit. And it's kind of an automated system designed to keep human bias out of it. And so the gist of it is a PowerPoint presentation that's pre-made that plays. It's about, 25 slides, something like that. And then during the time that presentation is being played, there's parts in there where they have to answer questions by placing their hands on the globe for a yes or don't touch it for a no. And so we then, run the thing through several times. We get our batch of data. Dave and I go through and do a bunch of statistical number crunching, and we try to determine if the ghosts or spirits can score better than chance at answering the questions. So originally, Swartz had used video or pictures, I should say, still pictures, and they would take so many pictures every so often and then try to statistically see if the pixel counts or pixel intensities changed. And of course, at first we were like, it's so subjective. I don't know how the computer could really tell the difference. And then so I decided, well, let's do this by measuring power consumption of the globe. because it theoretically should be less bias or less subjective, I guess is the correct word, and easier to automatically log with a lot less computing power. And so I built the setup. We went to a couple different locations and have tested it. I've tested it at a few locations. So that's pretty much where you're at. How about you, Brandon?
Well, I think you did a good job. And if you just think about it, everyone knows what a plasma globe is. It's that globe that shoots the electricity out of it. So
Get him at Spencer's Gifts.
Yeah. So
I actually here, I just haven't had it set up yet, but I use that sometimes when I do my show.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So these things are common; they're all around. But this research out at the University of Arizona found that if they ask spirits questions, sometimes they interact with this globe, and they were finding that when they asked a question like, "Is this a picture of a duck?" If it was a picture of a duck, put your hands on the globe for yes.
Mm-hmm.
And they were finding that there was a lot of correlation between like hits, like yeses. So in other words, something was touching the globe when this was going on. Now, it was so small, it was registering so small that you can't see that with a naked eye. So Shane developed something that was supposed to help us kind of get a little bit more sensitive and see if they were able to we were actually able to detect something touching the globe. So it's kind of like a Ouija board, but you take away the whole finger on the planchette type thing, and you just have a standard globe sitting there, and you ask it yes or no questions. And, you should be able to find that. The thing is I mean, if anyone wants to look up the soul phone, go ahead. There's a lot of research out there on it. But they're trying to develop technology to talk to the deceased. And we thought it'd be interesting to see if we can actually take this out into the field. Now, granted, we don't have the backing or the money or any of the other stuff that the University of Arizona has. So we're way far behind. But we thought, hey, let's check it out and see if we can get some results from it.
Right.
So we tried to take sort of science and kind of move it into real haunted locations and see if we were getting anything. And we did that. Me and Shane went to a haunted place for a couple of days in Oberlin, Ohio here. And I know Shane's taken the globe to a couple locations as well.
Yeah, the Van Buren Poorhouse has been there 3 or 4 times now.
But the thing is, you get the data back, and the data is like a big graph that goes like this. So when you touch the globe, one of the lines goes poof like this, right? So if a human touches the globe, the line goes all the way.
Yeah, it's very obvious.
Right.
Now, have you guys been to? I mean, I know Shane, you have, but have you been with Shane to the Farrar house or Farrar school?
No, I haven't.
No.
Yeah.
That would be a really cool place to go.
Oh yeah, if I ever go there again, that globe will be there.
Right.
I think
Just from what you said,
one of the big differences between what Gary Schwartz has been doing and what we've been doing is we're taking it to haunted locations and trying to get whatever's there to interact with it, compared to what he's doing is having mediums that they've verified and they have experience with, and they supposedly can tell them when they're in contact and work with the spirits to get them to touch the globe and answer the questions. So I think we have a little bit different of approach. He's still, I would say, typically in the lab experiment stage, using people to drive that experience, mediums, psychics to drive that. And we're doing field work, bringing it to haunted locations and seeing if anything shows up.
Right. Well, feel free to tap me if you ever want to do that, because I would love to do that. That would be, awesome.
We're always on the lookout for mediums or spiritual mediums, I believe is the one that we're most looking out for. So people who can sort of see and interact.
Oh, that's Jay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, we're I don't know. You guys could comment on this. We're kind of, I don't know where we are if we're confident in this globe at any point.
Well, I guess I'll go quick and then I'll let Dave, give us the big answers. But so I think at this point, at least for me, we've only done one reasonably controlled study at the Oberlin house. Every time I've had it at the other locations, these were more of ghost tours than ghost hunts. I just get to go along for free.
Right.
And so we have all this public in there. We have people walking around. We have things happening, and everybody's in chaos. I mean, sometimes the last one we had 30 people at it.
Yeah.
So it's like,
That's way too many.
So when everything's going on like that, and I just have the globe kind of running, and I've ran the PowerPoint a few times and just kind of left it sitting there, we didn't have very good controls. The other thing is the globe has a warm up time as the electronics get up to temperature. And during that time, the data it's okay, but it's skewed is the word.
Right.
And so once it settles in after half an hour, 45 minutes, then I think it's pretty good. I think if we could get Brandon, Dave, and I at a location, we can control things. We can do multiple runs, maybe even multiple PowerPoints, go through this in a more controlled way, maybe have one or two mediums to assist in that, maybe do a couple sessions without the medium and then a couple sessions with the medium, because that gives us more data. Mm-hmm. And then also there's some amplifier stuff that I can build to maybe increase the sensitivity of the globe a little more. And I think my gut feeling tells me it's plenty sensitive, but then the papers that we've read from Schwartz, they're talking about like 0.1% changes. So I don't know if you could ever see that in the sea of electrical noise. So
I think that the thing to pull from this, at least generally speaking, is, we had to do some pilot stuff before we even feel confident about anything. And I think now the globe is hooked up to Shane's computer, so we're able to get graphs, we're able to get numbers and readings. Like the globe has a baseline and it goes up and it goes down. So rather than just taking like a static sensor into a room, and if it makes a noise, something's there. This is a little bit more in depth, and I think this is something that's not hard to do. I think this could be transferred over to pretty much anybody who's a paranormal investigator. Mm-hmm. But you can see how, like, me and Shane took this thing there, and we were getting readings and just spot on when we were there. I think we were way off as far as interpreting things. But when we sat down with the actual numbers and ran statistical analysis, we can see we needed to improve things and move forward. Yep. And it's not that hard to do. And I think that generally speaking, there's ways to move this sort of into general amateur paranormal investigation. Even if you just get data or questionnaires or some sort of data collection, I think that that's really hopefully where the field is going in the future. This has been an eye-opening experience for me. Because I'm like, I'll be honest with you, at the beginning, I'm like, this is a freaking globe. I mean, it's a child's toy, and I'm sitting in a haunted house staring at a child's toy.
Some of the simplest toys make the best. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, he uses the cat balls, the little cat, light up balls.
But you just have that sort of like, I'm 42 years old and I'm in a haunted house staring at a plasma globe sort of moments. And then when you take the data away and you see, like, Dave and Shane have done some complicated sort of statistical analysis, and then it becomes a lot more interesting. It's like, oh, okay, so we were measuring the globe, we were measuring EMF, barometric pressure. I don't know what the heck
all kinds of stuff. I had the board out there. Matter of fact, the board was that I talked to. We've had shows on that before. The board was actually the thing that was taking the readings. So, because the globe can interface to the board, so we had all the environmentals. So,
yeah, and that's the challenge of just going out and letting the thing run, and then actually, what do you do with that data? A lot of people you'll see go out, do investigations, and okay, you got a lot of blinking lights. Maybe you collect some data, but what do you do with it afterwards? And when you start analyzing it, running various statistics on it, then you start getting a real picture for what's going on. And for what we're trying to do, I think the challenge we're at now with this is we're trying to detect a supposedly weak signal in a lot of noise. Mm-hmm. So trying to modify the device, make it better, learn the pilot studies Brandon talked about. trying to get the methodology down and the analysis down so we're ready to go. And when we come across something that we want to bring it to, and maybe there's a medium that we want to work with, we'll have it all set and ready to go. But that's science. You're learning, you change, you adapt,
Right.
you modify,
absolutely.
and you take what somebody else has done and you try to either take the next step or do it better. And I think that's what we're trying to accomplish here.
Yes.
So I think there's a
absolutely.
lot of teams out there that have a tendency to kind of overlook that science aspect of it. I think that some of them, are kind of more of the immediate gratification of evidence and this and that. But when you really break it down, like you said, you get a better, bigger picture of what you're actually, there to do. And people can actually can thrive off that. You know what I mean? And they're just, some of them are don't want to take the time to actually do that. I mean, I'm not saying everybody has to, but if you're really in a haunted location, let's take Gettysburg, for a place that has been well known to document a lot of different evidence, a lot of visual evidence and this and that. Take like the board down there, or
I'd love to
have that atmosphere, and to take a medium or two down there or something like that, or even do it beforehand and then afterwards, and compare notes or compare the whole big picture together. You know what I mean? I think that people would actually learn to be more willing to appreciate that more than just going down there just for the aspect it's Gettysburg. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. I think that another thing this shows is that you could really take any piece of equipment or any new idea and you can test it appropriately.
Mhm.
You can introduce science, the scientific method, data analysis, and you can test it. And I look at this globe as something that's kind of unproven, untested still at this point. I know Schwartz has
Absolutely.
got his papers and he's working
Right.
on it. And that's, again, it's a little different than what we're doing. But you look at some of the new equipment that people claim is detecting ghosts and they're taking it to haunted locations. And it's, well, how have you tested that? What have you validated? What have you gotten from it? And I think the process we're going through is a good example of how you can take something new and go through the proper steps to see if there's anything to it or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there a list of things that you guys would, like you said, you got the globe. Now, is there other things that you think that you could inject in there that you would like to test, just like you were testing the globe? Do you have a list of things that I want to try this, or I want to try that, or?
I think, in all honesty, this globe has consumed a huge portion of our lives. Like, it's seriously, I thought was going to be like one weekend, and it has consumed probably 8 months of our lives at this point.
Wow.
Because
and I still got improvements.
Because there is sort of a list in my head, but it's hard to move to next one
because you're kind of stuck on the.
Well, I don't feel that we've finished it.
Right.
We've had too few sessions, too few things.
Right.
And there's things that kind of pull you in and pull you out. Sometimes, like when we were at this haunted place in Overland, we asked a question and we got a hit. So, is this a picture of an automobile? And it was, and the thing shot up. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, holy crap, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But what we found was we were getting hits when we shouldn't be getting hits. So
once we did the math,
once you do the math, you find out that it's randomly hitting. So if we look at one question, we see a hit, but when we look at the whole thing, we're seeing misfires or false.
Okay. Now talk a little bit about your misfires. Where were you and what were you doing when you got those misfires? Do you remember? I mean, I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
How the program works is we put the computer in a room and no one's around it, and it has a PowerPoint presentation that's my voice just talking, and it goes through 24 slides. Now, the slides will ask sort of like when you go like if you're on the computer, it's sort of like robot questions. Mm-hmm. So, is this a picture of an animal? If you're not a robot, hit yes, or whatever the thing is. Mm-hmm. So there's a picture of an animal and it says, is this a picture of an animal? If yes, place your hands on the globe. So if it's an animal, you should get a hit. If it's a truck, there should be nothing. It should just be a straight line. Yep. Theoretically, if a ghost can touch it.
Right. Sure.
So hits go up. When I say misfires, I'm talking about just sort of staying baseline.
Yeah.
But sometimes when the question is this a picture of a duck or something like that, and it's not a picture of a duck, it'll go up like a yes. So
Okay.
we don't want those. That means that either the spirit doesn't understand, or our globe
Or
is
it's
just
random.
randomly shooting up or misfiring or exploding for no apparent reason.
Well, especially the fact that, I'm pretty sure, well, and Shane, you know this too. Where there's energy, there's different spikes of different energy fields everywhere. So if you're in a haunted location, you might get those misfires intermittently. Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know
Okay,
what I mean?
yeah.
Because the fact that because there's energy all around everywhere, especially in a charged location. So some of those where if you're doing active stuff in one room, you might get a hit in another room. And it's just the way the energy works. I don't know how exactly it works like that, but you could be 2-3 rooms across and asking a question. You could probably get a response in another room because there's no more gap. If there's a spirit there, the spirit's going to see you regardless. Whatever room you're in, the spirit is going to see you. So you could have been asking a question, or you could have been talking about something else where you would get a spike. So there's always a chance that energy can fluctuate somewhere else.
But
I think Shane can address some of this, but
Yeah.
the fact that they're being told they have to actually touch the globe, and there's a certain response with the globe and the numbers that you see.
Sure.
And one of the things we're looking for is, if there's something going on in another room, you might have some background, you might have some noise I talked about. But what we're trying to do is statistically try to find a threshold level that is an actual hit or not. And then you're comparing it against, the before, the after, the background noise, which should filter out some of that. And then there's some other fancy probability analysis you can do that. People have actually done that with other pieces of equipment where they're getting random hits or spikes here and there. But there is a way to adjust for that and analyze for that. So with the globe, though, they actually have to come and touch it, and it should do something.
Yeah,
as
because
opposed to
when a
something
human
moving
touches
around
it
in the other room.
it's obvious. I mean, when a human touches it, it's like, I mean, there's no way you could miss it.
Right.
So when the spirit touches it, either they don't touch it hard enough, or
It
they
depends on
touch
their
it
energy.
randomly, or they're not in the same time zone as us, temporally in the same zone. So they might be touching it 10 seconds late or something.
They're not on daylight savings time yet, Shane?
Yeah, I am, unfortunately.
By an hour.
And I think there's a lot of variables. I think you're right, Jay. There's a lot of variables with this. We don't know, like, do spirits have hands? Do spirits, if they are touching the globe, is it even going to register on the? I mean,
hypothetically so. And what you guys are doing, you guys are slowly breaking down the barriers to find out just that. And that's why, this is fascinating what you guys are explaining to me with this globe, because the fact that you're doing things a lot of people don't really want to take the time to do that.
When we first started this project, I mean, when I first started reading the papers, the science papers, etc., my initial thought was, we've had like poltergeist activity documented for, thousands of years. It's like, okay, if something can throw a book on the floor, with enough physical energy to move an object physically, how can it not touch or interact with something as sensitive as this globe? I mean, honestly, you can get 6 inches from it and you can, as a human, and see it. So it's a very sensitive device, but that was my initial thought. So I thought, well, this will be a slam dunk. It'll either work or it won't, and as far as like, either spirits can really do stuff and they exist, or they don't. And so I don't know, it turned into more of a gray zone than I anticipated. I figured this would be kind of like,
and that bits the statement of the spiritual world is very unpredictable. It's just, and just like I've told people before, being in a haunted location, not everybody wants the spirits, I guess, which I should say, don't want to interact, or they're interacting with something different. You know what I mean? Or they're, it's just, you guys have your work cut out for you. I'm telling you. I mean, seriously. I mean, you guys, and I think it's awesome. I mean, I really do. I just, you know, I would think that in my own mind, the fact that because of the fact that I am a psychic medium, that it's not easy being me. So I can't even imagine to have a scientific brain.
Yeah.
I would probably be like, seriously, I would just be like, yeah, I would just be, I would overthink everything. You know, I do
Sure.
anyways, but you know, still. But kudos to you guys, man. That's just, yeah.
And I think sometimes simplicity. I don't know. We went in there trying to keep it as simple as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
If it's yes, touch the globe. If it's no, don't touch the globe. Like really simple, straightforward questions. And I thought to myself, well, this is probably as simple as we can make this whole thing out to be.
Right.
But then there's so many variables, even with something as simple as that.
And this is why we need science. And this
And it looks like Allison
you
has
know?
a question.
Yeah. Have you tested it in a location that you think are not haunted? If so, what has
I can go
been
for
the
that one,
result?
at least to start.
And how the
So-
difference from known to haunted locations?
Yeah. So yes, we did in a kind of a roundabout after I built it here in the lab, which you can see behind me. Once I designed and built the thing, as far as I know, my lab is not haunted. I mean, it's a modern building. There's not much on this dirt. I mean, it's kind of basic,
Right.
farmland. So anyways, I left it sit here and run for like 2 days straight. And for the most part, it was pretty much just the normal small amount of hash of noise. I didn't really see spikes or things, which was pretty encouraging because I figured, well, now if we see spikes, then they're something outside of, just the baseline. Now, of course, since doing that, I've realized that the amount of noise is pretty high, and I have some ideas in my brain of how to electronically remove some of that and kind of smooth out the bumps, and stuff. So we'll try that. But we did test it. It got a couple days.
Did you run the slide presentation at your house? Though?
Negative.
I think that would
I didn't have it at that point. That was before I even had it exist. Now, one thing I did notice was that at 2 a.m, the lab cat can definitely touch the globe. Because I saw this really huge spike and I was like, holy crap, this is cool. So I go back to the video to figure out what was going on with that.
Yeah.
And here's the cat.
Yep.
Touch its nose on the globe, paws on the globe.
It's an interesting question too, because if you look at what Schwartz has done and then what we've done, I don't believe he's in a haunted location, and they're having the mediums come in and do the experiments in a lab setting. So, okay, so it's not haunted. So what?
Right.
Or what if what if there's one of those drop-in?
Yeah. Or if you got a medium that can call them.
Yeah, or it's just nothing. I mean, that's the hard part. Is it can be done in non-haunted places. That's already happened with the person who's started to work on this originally, and Shane ran it in his place, and you're still going to get noise. And I think what we're trying to do is some of the files I think we looked at from Shane's runs. I mean, there's still, when you do the statistics on it and you're looking for things that go above a certain threshold, you're still getting those no matter what. Because there's a normal distribution. You're going to see high values, low values, values in the middle, and he's still seeing that, and we're seeing that out in the field. The problem is, how do we try to figure out which one of those high values actually means something when we're out in the field compared to all the other spikes and drops and noise that's going on in there?
And the only way it would mean something is if it's a hit, like when we ask the question and then they respond appropriately.
It's a timing thing.
But
if they do it during the time frame of this is where you're supposed to answer the question and it spikes, we consider it a hit for a yes.
And then Dave, I don't remember the numbers, but how many, wasn't it like 16 out of 24?
Yeah, that was going to ask you. I saw that last. It looks like they scored above chance.
Well, it depends on what your level, what you want to define as.
If you just did the basic math, it looked. Here's
the thing: scoring above chance is great, but this isn't a quantum physics exam. They either say yes or no. And how come they're only responding to 17 out of the 24 and the other ones are getting wrong?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Now, is that
unless
before? Is that like
we've channeled a really old entity that has no idea what a stoplight is or a car.
right? Well, I mean, are those questions that they don't answer? Are those before or after the session?
They're all during the session.
During the session.
It's just
There's yes
kind of
no
riddled
answer.
in between the whole.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they'll
there's-
get wrong
okay.
answers.
Yeah, there's 24 questions. I think 20 of them are yes and 4 no or something like that.
But but they score like they a lot of times answer yes on the nose and nose on the yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
and
Or you could have
statistically-
somebody saying, "I'm going to say just the opposite." You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
See, that's where you come in, Jay. You're the one that's
Yeah.
going to be like, you're going to be like the spirit herder. You got to
Yeah.
get them. See this
Yeah.
little shiny thing. Touch this for me, please.
Right.
and I think
And I'd be
sometimes-
more than happy. Like I said, I got to get you to the mansion, Shane, because
Yep.
I know that it's.
and when we look at hits, we kind of get really excited. But when we look at all the data together, we go, well, it's just random.
And quite honestly, we're still trying to feel our way through how to do the analysis. One way I did it, one experiment, there were 17 out of 24 they got right. But then if I do it another way, which makes it a little more stringent, it's only 14 out of 24.
Yeah.
And then the next experiment, it's 12 out of 24 and 10 out of 24. So that's where we're kind of looking at this going, sometimes it looks good. You get excited. The next one you do, you're like,
well, and also
nothing there.
remember those last ones that you did, there were like over 20 people traipsing around this building, doing things in and out, near stuff, walking by the globe. I mean, I didn't have control of it because I was trying to run a tour. I just kind of set the thing up in the corner and let it go. And I really would not use it as a baseline for, I mean, I kept the data because I already took it, and I had some idea it might have something, but honestly, it wasn't a controlled, even close to a controlled lab environment. I mean, we didn't let it get good warm up, because I just turned it on and let it go, so we had a quarter of the data we had to kind of throw out because it was the globe still warming up and doing its thing. And there's lots of people near it. And some of the spikes might've been, somebody's decided, oh, I'll come here, push the, touch it, or, I mean, they didn't touch it, but,
So let me ask you guys, let me ask all of you guys, at any time, any location that you go to, how much of the research do you actually do of the location that you're in to see if, like, people have talked about, I know there's like a spirit here, there's been rumors or sightings of this or that or the other thing. Do you guys know, or you just go in blindly and thinking or hearing this place is just haunted? You don't know any other information of haunting?
Yeah, I could start with that. So basically, most of the spaces, I pretty much intentionally don't get the info ahead of time.
Okay.
And also I don't typically do a lot of EVP kind of work or anything like that where you get names and things and stuff. Once in a while I'll do that, just more of as something extra to do to take up time. But in the events that I have done EVPs, if I hear stuff that actually sounds like it could be important, then I might go back and dig through and find out, okay, if I got a name, does this name actually go with this place? Or if I got, some specific stuff, did it actually go with it? If I don't get anything or it doesn't do anything, I don't take the time to do it because it doesn't really mean anything. I don't think.
A little suggestion, when you guys are doing this, just an opinion of mine. I see you guys basically, if you were to do it in a very small haunted location, something that's kind of local or someplace you guys know that's very small and not like a big building or like a school or a house or even just something really super small, like say, like a bar or something, you know what I mean? Or a general store that's been whatever, something that's really small and quaint like that. Because of the fact that when you guys get into those bigger locations, you're going to have so much different energy that's just you guys are going to be chasing your tails. Seriously. I mean, there's too many different energies in one spot that you guys, your readings you're probably going to be chaotic. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I see is in that aspect. If you guys were to maybe start in a very, very small location and just
Yeah, I
kind
think,
of
What do you
just
think of that,
go
Brandon?
from there. You know what I mean? I
yeah,
mean,
I think the
that's just
smaller
my
the better,
opinion.
yeah.
I'm
No,
not
no,
saying,
I
you know,
Right.
I agree. I think, you know, it's um, you
for
know,
what
that
you
would
guys
probably
are
be the
trying to
most
do.
ideal. Yeah,
You know what I
that's the
mean?
most ideal to get a nice little small space. So, if you can take away as many variables you can from the environment,
Right,
that only
right.
helps us out.
Hmm.
Lord knows we need all the help we can get
Right,
decreasing the
right.
noise
But then
on
you
this
guys
thing.
can
So,
build off that. You know what I mean?
I mean, my question back is how would you get the spirits or entities to interact with this thing if they were there anyway? Because it doesn't matter. It actually wouldn't matter if we're in one room. If they're not theoretically, if they're not right there touching it, we're not going to get much of a reading. So I guess that's one of my questions: is how would you
It would
get
depend
them
on
to
how
do
many
what you
spirits.
want?
It would depend on how many spirits are actually there.
and we could
I mean, if I was to depict
open that up
saying,
to everybody. Give us suggestions on how we get a spirit to
Yeah,
touch
how do
the
we get
spirit
them there?
below.
right, well, that's usually a lot of the spirits that are even at any location, they're all there because of some type of drive or something that keeps them there. Okay, a small location, usually a lot of it's residual. You know, so you could have false readings just because of residual energy itself. But when you go to a small location, and if I was to go to a small location and I was to depict how many spirits were like, I usually get a number within 5 minutes I'm there. You know, I could tell you how many spirits are here, but it fluctuates here because this is a different story. But um, let's say there's 3 in one location that are active, that I know that are active, that would be positive or charged enough to communicate.
All
You
right.
know, and that's the way that I would go
Can
about
you
it.
direct them then?
Um, direction is, let's put it this way. It's all about intention. The same with any medium will ever tell you. It's all about intention. And if your intention is to direct or coerce or to do whatever, 9 times out of 10, that spirit's going to give you the big finger. You know, depending on, from what I've ran into in the past, if your intention is just to do what you guys are doing, then they're going to know that you're true to your intentions. You know,
Sure.
it's just, that's how that type of energy works. That's why I said small location, a few spirits here and there, but you would kind of have to have somebody who would either know the location or is attached to the location, or a medium who's attached to the location, or somebody who could communicate internally within this small location so that you guys would be able to say, okay, and the spirit would say, hey, you got 3 spirits here. Yes, they want to contact you, or they want to, you know, talk with you, or this is what they're about, or this is, you know. So when you're in that field of integrating the medium with you guys, it's because you guys are of scientific minds like that. It's like Shane said, what did you say, you're 80% skeptic and
Yeah, 20% believer.
20%, you know, believer.
Yeah, that's me.
You're gonna run into that. So that's why it's kind of like you guys would have to kind of throw caution to the wind and just say, okay.
So we have to reverse that for the day that we're out there.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, not completely, but just enough to where you could actually make contact in that. But I mean, I'm not saying necessarily would have to have a medium, but like I said, a small location would be good too. But what you guys are actually attempting to do, from what I'm getting, is groundbreaking. And I've told Shane that before when I talked to him about this, that I want to know all about this stuff, and I think that you guys are on the right track. It's just the fact that, yeah, the spirit world is so unpredictable. It's pathetic. You know, just like I've ran into it, you know, a long time. You know, it's just one minute you think you got it, and next minute it's like that doesn't match. You know, so I can understand the frustration, but that's just me. I mean, that's
Yeah.
so.
And I think it's I don't know, you watch the TV shows and they can tell spirits to make a K2 meter go up and down, and they can tell
Yeah.
spirits to make the static REM pod turn on and off. They can tell spirits to talk into their little EVP things. They can tell spirits to, I don't know, I guess I can go on and on and on, but
But you know that's TV.
but I've been out on real investigations with people who still do these things outside.
Right.
Of
Oh, no, yeah.
So
I've attempted those things. Most of the time, it's been all results, but
you know, a lot of the
not every
stuff
time.
out there, even a Ouija board, is based on asking a spirit to move a little planchette. You know,
Mhm.
all these devices that exist are asking a spirit to do something, or any of the results that are anywhere are asking a spirit to do something.
Right.
So for me, it's hard to get outside my head. Or it's for me, it's like, hey, we got this huge glowing ball.
It looks
just,
fun.
Just smack it.
All you got to do is
know,
touch it.
You draw some
Yeah.
energy from it. Do
and
whatever.
we have baseline readings, or we have times where we have a slide that just says, you got 15 minutes, just do whatever you can, punch the globe, kick it, smack it, spit
Yeah.
at it, you know, whatever, make it move.
Okay.
And then nothing.
Well, look at it this way. Look at it this way. Now, let's say you go to a location and you've got a spirit that's been there since the late 1800s. Doesn't know what a globe is. Doesn't know it glows. It makes this energy or this light, and emits this. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to want to touch it because they have no idea. They've never been in contact with anything. You know, if this spirit's been there, and it's kind of been like a fly on the wall for 100 years, and you come in there with that globe, it's like walking into a stranger in your house, and you bring this big globe and you're telling them to touch this. In real life, I wouldn't have done this. You know what I mean? So there's that element that some of these spirits are not going to recognize that for what.
Yeah. And I do know that in Schwartz's papers, you know, the certified mediums that they were supposedly using for those things were giving the instructions, and we're actually, you know, having some form of, you know, subliminal communication with or however they do,
Right.
they do it.
Yeah.
And so they were actually like, all right, I need you to do this on this date, this time, you know, this, and they were actually explaining what the thing did and some stuff,
Right.
you know, whereas of course, when we were in there, I haven't bought a psychic as a rock, so
Right.
I'm not a help. And so at that point, you know, it's me and Brandon. We did have a young lady in there, psychic, doing some stuff, you know, and she's like, well, they were a little scared of the globe. She was like, they're in this corner and they're hovering near, but they won't touch it. And she was kind of giving us a narrative.
Right.
But, you know, it's really hard to tell because also we had her attempt to interact with the globe. Like, you know, we set the globe up. We didn't run the PowerPoint presentation. We're just like, all right, we're going to videotape this. You try to put energy into the globe. You try to draw energy out of the globe, and then we'll see if it shows up. And as far as I know, then the results were basically null. I mean,
Right.
You couldn't really tell when she started or stopped or did anything.
Right. And you have to realize that not all mediums, psychic mediums, have that energy to do that.
Sure.
Well,
and so
I'll interject
yes.
and say, I don't think it was her. I think the globe we weren't ready. It wasn't sensitive enough. It was picking up on other things.
Yeah.
I think that was more us than it was anything with her.
That was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's something that, you know, sometimes we kind of, the easiest thing to do is to blame this person's not true, or there isn't a.
Understood.
Right.
But I think for us, for that pilot, we have to sometimes put the blame on ourselves and say
it was crude. I mean, we didn't know what we were doing. We're just experimenting. It was the very first experiment.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I'm okay to say that, and I think we told them, like, I don't know what this freaking globe's going to do. It could blow up. It could. Who knows what's going to happen here? But
right.
I think that's, you know, if we talk about sort of the bringing some standards and analysis and quantitative and qualitative research into the field, I think that's really what it is. So it's been an eye-opening experience, and these are all great suggestions and to modify this thing. And I, I don't know where.
Yeah.
There's so many things I feel like we
Yeah.
could do or should do. And
What are some of your ideas, Dave? I've got some for my own self, but what are some of your ideas? What things can you suggest that maybe I can implement to further the progress?
Yeah, I think that putting some sort of amplifier on there might help, but
Easy
who
enough.
knows? I don't know if we need to shield it somehow
We can do that
in
too.
a Faraday cage to get rid of some of that, whatever might be some of the outside
That's entirely
noise in the
possible.
system. I think we need to do a bit with the mediums like Schwartz has done to help guide us through that, because those people, I believe, were, kind of like the MC of the event, and they were getting them to do things or asking them to do things. And they could also provide feedback that you could kind of look at your results and say, okay, the medium said it did touch it at that point. Great. We should have a reading, or we shouldn't. And that's one of the things I did in the past with an old experiment up in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, at an Octagon house. We worked with a medium, and there was supposed to be an underground railroad, old building. And he said there was a ghost of a little slave boy under there, and he couldn't see the equipment we were running, but he told us he would give us a verbal when the supposed boy would move forward or move back, and the type of equipment we were using, ultrasound motion detector, it tagged a hit every time he said that happened. Now, without him being there, I'd look at that data and go, I don't know what that means. So it's
Yep.
almost a way to do a little bit more of what Schwartz has done, but then take that into the field, and then maybe with some amplification and some shielding on the device, we'll have better luck. Because I'll be honest with you, I've spent a lot of time with this data, and I'm
Yep.
just having a hard time trying to find the appropriate signal to noise ratio that
Yep.
we should be looking at,
And I
because we
had
don't
that
have
same
anything to go
problem.
on beyond the question's over. Here's 15 seconds. Is there anything there?
Yeah.
And we just don't know. So that's my
Yeah.
couple ideas. I guess I'm not done with it entirely, but I feel like a couple more tweaks and a couple more changes to the methods we're doing, and I don't know, I might be willing to throw in the towel and move on.
Okay. Yeah,
I
I did the
like running
same.
data though. If you can send it to me all day, that's
Yeah,
fine.
I did the basic statistical analysis myself, and the results that I got were pretty nearly identical to what Dave got. So we are at least on the same wavelength, So I think if I get some amplification, some smoothing, some other stuff like that on the globe, his idea of putting it in a Faraday cage so that, even though it doesn't seem to be really sensitive to things like cell phones and random crap, I mean, can't prove that. So, we're going to work with that. But the other thing is I think we've only had that one incident at the Oberlin place. We had one night, and then all the other times that I've ever used it, it's pretty much been chaos with people and things. And it really wasn't a dedicated mission to go test the globe. It was, hey, I'm going to a haunted location on a tour, ghost tour that I get in for free, and I get to help out with the ghost tour. I can throw it off to the side and let it record stuff, So I don't consider that really valid scientific method way of doing this. It was like, this is an opportunity to get data and see what its baseline is like. But again, the environment was so uncontrolled, and there's so many people and stuff, and people turning on and off lights and wandering around. And yeah, I don't trust it. I think what we really need is for me to make some tweaks. Then the three of us go to a new location and really, time the trials, maybe have 2 or 3 presentations, maybe make some that are more no's than yeses this time instead of the other areas mostly yeses and a few no's, and, really run it through the paces. We might find if we do, a large meta analysis that overall there actually is an effect. We just haven't been consistent enough to really get it to do it.
Maybe I'll ask Brandon and Jay this. Here's a question for those two. Is there a response bias with entities? Will they just go down the line and go, yes, 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 yes? And then we gotta deal with that mess.
It just depends. It depends on the entity that's there. You know what I mean? If it's, especially if it's one that has not crossed over, they don't have any desire to participate, because if they haven't crossed over for whatever reason, they won't. But they can also, you know.
Yeah, Allison had another question down there. If you want to bring that last one up.
No, that's
because we actually did that. Brandon, remember when we were at the yeah. So Brandon, give us a little bit about that.
First off, Brandon, do you believe in that?
What, Reiki?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay.
Not
a lot of people do.
It just reminds me of Ghostbusters too, when they're like, we run tests with it, and then he's like, "You're not sleeping with it, are you?" Like,
oh man.
Well, we did test it with the Reiki,
awesome.
healer, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. What we did was we really, and again, for all the listeners out there, this is basically like a pilot at this point. So we took one weekend, me and Shane, we went to this haunted place in Oberlin, but we also took it to like 3-4 psychics, and we just put it in a room with them, and we asked them to kind of, hey, see if you could, make it do something.
Yeah, and we put it right inside their copper pyramid.
And I think that there was some Reiki involved.
Yep.
So we really tried to hit all aspects of this, thinking, because my thought is always, if people have ghostly encounters, is it always a sort of discarnate entity, or is there some sort of little bit more simple? It's more like mind impacting the environment, or psi, or whatever. And I thought, well, hey, maybe the globe can pick up on psi if that's what's going on as well, or telepathy, or ESP, whatever you want to say. And so we tried that too, and we're just sort of feeling around to see if we can get this thing to do anything different. So the answer is yes, we did. We haven't tried everything. I don't think we tried the Tai Chi part of it. But we did do the Reiki, and there was other things that they were able to do in there too. So yeah, but that just it's funny. I had the flashbacks of that. Ghostbusters thing.
That was awesome.
None of us have slept with the globe.
I was going to say, I'm not sleeping with the globe.
No, me either.
That's all you, Shane and Brandon.
No.
No.
It is. It's weird because the plasma globe is essentially just chaos. So it's just these lines that are shooting all over the place, and you just try to get something out of that chaos.
Which is why the data has a lot of noise, because every time that little bit of electricity flickers, the power supply to it flickers, which then makes the graphs jump.
And anyone who knows is that there's all these lines, but when you put your hands on it, what happens to the globe?
Yeah, definitely the entropy drops considerably then
you have 4 or 5 lines. So you go from 1,000 to 4.
But if you're physically touching it with your hands, it's very easy to detect. I mean, the Z score is in the hundreds. So
what do you guys think of the Tesla coils?
I have a Tesla coil here at the lab. I play with it. I've never tried to do anything spiritual with it. I mean, it does 1.2 million volts. I don't usually put it inside close things because it will arc it will find the nearest wall outlet or light, and it will jump to it. So we typically don't run it indoors.
No, are there smaller versions of the Tesla coil?
Oh yeah, there's small desktop versions you could use, but honestly, the globe is literally a controlled Tesla coil. Just a very quick thing on how it works is a regular Tesla coil produces enough voltage and current that it can induce the arcs right in the air directly. The way and of course it'll kill you instantly if one of the arcs gets you. So in order to make it a controlled environment that a kid can play with it and not die, they turn the voltage and current way down, and then they fill it with an inert gas that's slightly conductive, and they put it inside there and pump out all the rest of the air. And so now you need a much smaller voltage and current to create those arcs that dance around in there, that are strong enough to dance and show up, but not kill you when you touch them. So really, it is nothing more than a little tiny baby Tesla coil.
Okay.
I think that thing gives off quite a bit of EMFs too.
Yes,
will
it
say
does.
that.
It tears up everything near it. Matter of fact, I had to put ferrite chokes on the power cables because it was so strong it would actually cause the board to lock up at first.
I
So
think
don't
it
put-
screwed up one of our tablets too. We were using that night.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and don't sleep next to that thing.
So it makes a lot of EMF. Just saying.
Yeah,
Just saying. I mean, you get an EMF meter even 3 feet from that thing, and it's gonna peg.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So, which was also our intention that, well, if the ghosts, like, you know, the theory in the ghost community is that they feed off the EMF, et cetera, et cetera. But then it's like, okay, this should be like, you know, a kid in a candy shop. If you got this thing that's just, you know, they should be able to manifest about anything off of that much, you know, EMF and power. So go ahead, draw from it. Because, you know, that's what it's really measuring when I'm measuring what the globe is doing is if you add energy to the globe, you see a dip in the signal. If you draw energy from it, you see a rise. And the reason, because if you draw energy, the power supply has to give you more. That gives a rise in the graph. If you push energy into it, the power supply doesn't have to give as much. So then it drops. So it's very, very sensitive to what's going on in the globe. Now, like Brandon said, the globe is pure chaos inside. So when you look at the data, it's pure chaos as well. But when a person actually touches it, or, you know, something touches, the chaos subsides and it's very clear on the graph, which is kind of frustrating for me because it's like, okay, if a spirit can really, you know, like I say, throw a book on the floor, they should be able to touch this enough that it wouldn't even be a question. It's like, okay, that spike is 60, 60 sigma. You know, I mean, this thing is 6 sigma. It's way off the scale. So
now, can you build something like that? Can you build like a smaller version of that actually, if a spirit were to touch it, they would actually activate that arc inside that globe?
it's already pretty much that way.
Right, but you said it was chaos. Is there a way to control that so that it's not chaos?
Yes, what you can do is reduce the power of the power supply to the point where it won't quite start conducting. So the globe would just be empty to you. It'd look like an empty glass globe.
Right.
And then when you went to touch it, then your body's extra resistance
Right.
would be enough that it would start an arc. And then
That's
when you
what
let go, the arc would go away.
Right, that's what I was kind of thinking. If you
That is
you
a
could make
possibility. I've never tested it, but
I think it's a cool idea.
physics say that should happen.
You know what I mean? And if you,
Yeah.
if
So
you
you could take the chaos away just like that.
By reducing
Well,
the voltage.
Yeah, if you reduce the voltage just below the threshold of the ionization of the gas that's in there, it will cease to function as far as the globe. It'll
until
just sit
somebody
there
touches it.
And then when you touch it, your added body capacitance on the outside of the globe would probably be enough to draw the current or voltage over the threshold of the gas. So you'd have to actually have an adjustment. So you'd take it on site and you'd have a knob you'd turn it till it just went out, and then touch it a couple times, make sure it lit up, and then go from there.
Then drop it another 99% and let the ghost touch it.
Yes. Something. I don't know. There's so many things. That's why I'm saying, you know, I know Brandon's probably about, or I'm sorry, Dave's about the end of his line with the random number crunching.
That's what I was
But
saying. I just wanted
I'm
to know
not
if
quite
there was a
finished
way to
yet.
control that if you could get a more accurate reading
sure.
with that not being so much chaos
Yes.
what's inside that.
Yeah.
That maybe you could actually pinpoint a little bit more than if it was just normal.
I tell you what, Jay, we're all up for ideas. So
Yeah, for sure.
we're not flushing anything down the toilet at this point, and that's probably if
It's a
we can
good
turn the
idea.
chaos down anything, it's
Yeah.
it's worth a shot. If it's just a dimmer switch in a way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
and I got other
yeah.
items too. So eventually
Mood
we
lighting.
we're not done yet.
No, I don't think you guys are by any means. I mean, I just, you know, when you were talking about that globe and you were talking about chaos, and then it just kind of came to me that it needs to be localized. It
Yeah.
needs
To
be,
reduce the entropy.
just so that I think you guys would get fantastic readings after that. I really do. I think that
All right.
you guys would just be.
Well,
So
I mean,
you know what?
globes
You know
are
what,
cheap
Shane?
enough. If I break
So
one
Shane-
trying it,
Shane,
then
why don't
whatever.
you just build it from the ground up and
Yeah.
patent
Well,
it and
it's a $10 globe. So, if I break it during experimentation,
oh no,
who cares?
right.
You shouldn't break a plasma globe, from what I've been told. That's not.
Well, I'm
good
just talking
on the-
about electronically break it by, messing with its voltage circuitry and stuff. It might burn out a component, but it's $10 or whatever. But
Right,
so I'll
right.
mess with that. I'll mess with some other things and we'll see what we can come up with.
Yeah.
The biggest thing we need to do in the meantime is find a more controlled environment for maybe early next year. And
if you have anybody who believes that they can communicate with spirits and get them to touch a globe, if you're
Or at
listening,
least let us know what they're doing at the time.
yeah,
yeah, if you could find us, that's your assignment, Jay, is to
Okay.
find us
If
2 or 3
there's-
more people that
if there's someone
that
out
have
there
the
that
gift.
has the
Oh, yeah.
ability to feel like they could help us get a spirit to touch a globe, then
Oh, I
Please
don't think I would have a
contact-
problem with that. I know a few.
Studio 6
Yeah.
Yep.
can help us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's no, I don't know, it's like you said, sometimes we're just sitting in a dark room kind of trying to figure things out, and thankfully there's a little bit of research in front of us or prior that gives us a little bit of a springboard.
Right.
But
Right. Yeah.
I always thought, well, why would of all the things in the world, why are spirits messing with this plasma globe in this University of Arizona region? Of all the things and all to mess with, why a plasma globe? But
That's a good question.
I don't
Because
think
they
I ever
want to
had it.
communicate with Dr. Schwartz and get his
Yeah.
recipe.
Maybe he's cooler than us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's but again, we're doing it a lot differently because he has a lot of certified mediums, and we're kind of just going in a haunted house and
Yeah. See, I would like to get our equipment in his lab with his mediums and then see what happens. But such as it is.
Where is he from?
He's from what's
He's
that?
from the University of Arizona. I
Arizona.
think.
Okay.
Yeah, he Dr. Gary Schwartz has a lot of books out there.
Yeah, you can Google it and find all kinds of papers and
Soul
things.
phone. Soul phone is what the actual project they have. It's called a soul phone. What they're really trying to do is, and they think that they're almost really right there, where they can communicate with the deceased through this thing called the soul phone, which is essentially a plasma globe at this point. They're getting consistent hits on the yes/no questions, and they're actually trying to move it to a point where you could sort of communicate, ask a spirit a question, and they'll respond like almost via text to you or through a keyboard or something like that. They have a spirit phone, spirit keyboard. They're working on that. So if you have any interest in that, just go to Soul Phone. They have updates every once in a while. He puts out books pretty often, and then
Actually, you have a book came out.
Yeah,
recently,
why don't you tell us about your book?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, it's not out quite yet. It's still with the publisher, but it's just I took a chance. I did something different, and I wrote a little bit about haunted locations in the Ohio area.
Okay.
I took a lot of newspaper research articles, and then I kind of dug into if there's anything behind them and people's experiences at these locations. So it's kind of just a haunted Ohio book.
Overview. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What about
So
you, Dave? Or you got anything?
We did a book way back in the day. I think it was 2007? Investigating the haunted ghost hunting taken to the next level. It read more like a textbook and kind of what the state of the field was, trying to mix all the academic literature into a book that people could use as a paranormal investigation guide. And then we did another one. My wife, she kept all the emails from all the requests for investigations, and it was called You've Got Ghosts, Haunted Tales from the Inbox. That's just a fun one. So we took all
that's
those
cool.
emails, got permission from people, put them in the book. We didn't edit any of the grammar or spelling because that's half the fun right there. And then at the end, we at the end of each email, we'd put a couple comments of ours in there.
Sure.
Besides that,
cool.
couple articles in some magazines you can't find anymore. Unfortunately, I think Ghost Mag was one of them. That was a great one. Haunted Times, I enjoyed that. And then couple articles in some peer-reviewed journals on random number generators and some other stuff.
Cool.
Cool. Awesome.
All right. Well, I think we're about at the end of our adventure.
Yeah, we are actually.
That hour went fast.
It did. I definitely want to have you guys on again. I mean, this has been educational for me. You know what I mean? I'm like I said, I love talking with Shane about his scientific brain, and I get a lot of information from him. And you guys have been a great help to me, as well as other people who have watched this and who will probably rewatch this, or new ones that are people that are watching this. So the information has been, you know, totally awesome. So I do want to have you guys back after you guys have done some more tests with your plasma ball and all the things that you guys have experienced, and seeing your how your books are doing. That book, I'm anticipating that one on Ohio. So I want to thank you guys again. I want to thank Shane, my host, and I want to thank everybody for watching tonight. And next week we do not have a show because we're doing another show the week after, and which I will make an announcement for next week. So thank you everybody again for coming on. And this has been Studio 6 Paranormal Podcast.